Hello and welcome to the Mead Hall. My name is Jay and I'll be your host for today. And here with me I've got Joe and John, and we're going to be having a little discussion about the new, or should I say renewed, OId World. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is the new sort of game system that GW has come out with. The new old game system, yeah. So today I thought we'd basically have a little chat about what we think about it, in terms of whether we'd be interested in playing it, if we did, how we'd go about it, what kind of factions you're interested in, what you know about it. Just to give a bit of context, I've played OId World in its older version, the original version. Don't think either of you two have it.
8th edition was the last edition they did of it?
Yes, it was an 8th edition, yep, and I think it finished in 2015.
Yeah, I don't know much more past that point, but I know the.
I have not played.
No, never played myself. I mean,
Never played myself.
I've obviously played it before, and I'm also a big fan of the Total War franchise, which is probably what helped bring it back. So we'll have a little discussion and then maybe finish up with some thoughts on where we think it might go, if it goes anywhere. Mm-hmm. I certainly know there's some potential thoughts that we're not confident it's going to go anywhere.
Well, yeah, that's a different conversation.
But that we'll see where we go. So, where should we start then, gents?
I think, do you want to give a bit of a, you said you had prior experience with it. So, what was your kind of prior experience? Give us the elevator pitch.
Because I know basically nothing.
Okay, so I mean, so OId World obviously is the sort of high fantasy Warhammer world that existed prior to Age of Sigmar, and is very much sort of based on the classic era of fantasy tropes. Very Tolkien-esque in a lot of places.
Some places too Tolkien-esque.
Some places very Tolkien-esque. Some places not, and they try to include a lot more world history compared to, say, Tolkien. So there's a lot of the factions are very much based on or inspired by real-world histories and cultures. So, likes of the New Bretonians, they are very much the Arthurian English or French nobility, Middle Europe, whereas the Empire is more later pike and shot era Germany or Holy Roman Empire. You've got the Tomb Kings of Kemri, which are very much obviously the Egyptian-inspired ancient force. Then you've got stuff like the elves and the dark elves. They are they lean more into the high fantasy Tolkien-esque kind of area, barring the dark elves.
High elves, dark elves, and wood elves.
Yep, wood elves are very much the classical, almost fairy-like elves, if you ignore the fact that they're also probably the more vicious of all of them in a lot of ways. Yeah, they're very much savages. You got the orcs, which are very much, they're orcs. Anyone who plays 40k will know exactly what orcs are like. This is basically where they came from.
I enjoy them being consistent. It's a joyous consistency. They're like, what do orcs do? They run and they hit stuff.
Yeah.
What do they do in 40k? They run, they hit stuff, and occasionally shoot stuff.
Yeah. You've also got the likes of the dwarves, which are kind of almost like industrial Vikings. Is probably the best way I can put it.
And your other kind of dwarves as well.
And there is also the far less popular in terms of how much they got supported, were the Chaos Dwarves, or the Dawi Zar, which were a personal favourite of mine back in the day, although I could never have afforded them. They basically remove the Viking part of the industrial Vikings and just plug chaos into it. Industrial chaos, quite literally. And obviously you have all the chaos races and demons and stuff like that. There's loads of other stuff, and it's been added to since then by Total War with the Norskins, which are Vikings with werewolves. Cathay, China.
Yep. Kislev as well.
Kislev, the sort of Russian.
Because they were in the original.
No, they were never a playable. Well, they may have been a playable army very early on, but they were never supported beyond, I think, one codex, possibly.
So I've tried some Mordheim in my time, and because that's obviously that is old world lore. Yeah. And you could take a Kislev like band in that.
Yeah. No, they were.
I don't believe they ever actually had a full supported army book, or if they did, it was only one very early on.
Okay.
I should also mention one of my favourite factions of all time as well, which is the Skaven.
Kislev. Oh no.
The Skaven.
Yes. The Skaven.
The Rat Men, who, as I'm sure you guys will eventually find out, I am a big fan of tricks and being sneaky, so Skaven kind of fit me quite well.
Did they play like that in the?
I don't really remember, because back when I was playing fantasy, we had a very small group of people. There was only a handful of us who played, and all we had an orc player, we had a empire player, we had my mate who was a vampire counts player, and then myself who played Tomb Kings.
Oh.
So we only ever had the 4 armies to play, and at the time I was a very different person back then. Sneaking tactics wasn't really for me, so I just rank upon rank of skeletons charging at something, which just was fun. So.
The idea of like the ranked formations I find like interesting from a gameplay perspective.
Well, that's why I'm quite glad Old World is back. For the potential future of it, in its current state, I'm not so sure. But the difference between, say, Sigma and 40k, there's very little as far as I can really tell. You know, it's very much similar concept. Yes, you have units, but they're all free form and they move around similar ways. Whereas at least in Old World, it is rank and file combat. And for me, as a bit of a history nerd, rank and file combat is what I'd want
formations.
with your formations. That's what I'd want to see in a fantasy setting, is rank and file. That's what I enjoy, and that's what I like seeing. And you don't get that with Sigma, which is why I've never been interested in it.
Having never played anything with like a formation system to it, it does appeal.
It does make movement quite interesting.
You just pick up a trade, don't you? You just pick up a nice movement trade, just slide it over the board.
I seem to remember the games being quicker than 40k.
I guess you just they probably would be. There isn't going to be as much as a shooting phase and things like that. But yeah, no, it's a game system that I have. Like I've looked at Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, and things like that, and having only ever done wargaming on predominantly 40k, I've done, like I said, Mordheim and a little bit of Warcry. I tried. It's an interesting game system. I'm going to leave it at that. That's a hard. But yeah, no, Old World definitely there is something that appeals in terms of trying something new, old.
Yes.
Or old new. I don't know.
The appeal for me is like I didn't play a lot of it, but tried to play like Mount and Blade.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a good enough computer for it, but like
I do like that.
but yeah, the sort of like castle siege type thing, the type combat with all the like cavalry sending in and things.
There's something of a spectacle to rank and file combat that you don't get with 40k. 40k is, and other sort of shooting based combat systems. They're not quite as cinematic as those. To use a great example from cinema is stuff like the Ride of the Rohirrim at the Battle of Pelennor Fields in the Return of the King, where you have this big wall of cavalry charging down a plateau. Just looks so epic.
40k, I think, goes to the sort of modernized like idea of battles of just like, they line up and they go together and it's just like an all-out melee. Whereas the Old World stuff is more like, okay, they fight in formation. The formations exist for a reason, and for the historical fun, like that's quite fun to have the little like things that work throughout history.
I was gonna say I feel like the kind of like the spectacle of fights in 40k comes down to the characters. It's like I have taken I've got my commander versus your commander. This is an epic duel kind of. Whereas like you don't, at least as far as I'm aware from an Old World perspective, is yes, there were some big individual things, but it was more about your marching army going up against the other kind of marching army.
There was much more of that, yes. There were definitely those epic moments, same as in 40k, and there are some phenomenal characters and monsters that take part in the games, but it is much more cinematic across the army rather than, as you say, just kind of the characters in 40k. And obviously, the movement phase becomes very important in fantasy. Like, the movement phase is ridiculously important in 40k, but that's to grab objectives, which is how they kind of balance it with 40k. Is your movement phase is important because of objective grabbing, whereas in fantasy, it's important because your entire combat phase is determined by your movement. Yeah. If you move wrong or move poorly, you're going to lose.
I do like the thing of, and again, I think they did a very good job of kind of presuming they did a very good job. I'm kind of speaking from a not experience of it, but translating it from Total War translating it from this into Total War, like flanking bonuses. Like if you ride a bunch of horses into the side of people, they ain't gonna have a good time.
They did do quite a good job. Yeah.
And like that kind of formation nature. So I mean, yeah, as a rule set, I'm fascinated to try it, and I think I would definitely be intrigued to see how it plays. I do have concerns.
I think we all have concerns. So should we move on to some more concerning natures?
I'll say just one more thing that I like. They use the templates, don't they?
Blast templates.
I like blast templates.
Templates are back.
I like blast templates. I think that's fun.
There are some interesting... Scatter's back as well. Scatter, I miss. Scatter was fun. I don't care if it often went wrong. It's fun.
It's one of the things with 40k that gets me is like if you shoot a character in the middle of a bunch of things with like what's the plasma gun on the Redemptor Dread called?
The macroplasma incinerator.
The macroplasma incinerator. You shoot a character with it, and it only affects that character. Like something with that sort of a name should definitely have like a radius.
Yeah. I mean, the blast templates and scatter dice have like it's really only like 40k and Age of Sigmar where they got rid of them, because Necromunda still has them. Actually, to be fair, Kill Team doesn't have them either. But Horus Heresy has them. Epic still has them.
I think a lot of the reason though is because they wanted to streamline Sigmar and 40k to stop a lot of the umming and ahhing with the templates, because people and it did happen even when you're not playing competitively, you'd argue the toss about whether a model was in the blast or not. I would imagine us being a bit more mature and adult, we would probably handle that a lot better now.
Yeah. I feel like some of the conversations that we have prove that we are neither of those things.
Yeah, okay.
But at least we're friends, which means we can agree. And also, we're here for a spectacle. Like, if it's funnier, or if it's like more cinematic for like somebody to be caught in a blast or somebody to not be caught in a blast, we can agree that it's what feels better.
My point with that statement would be, I think we would handle it better than.
Yeah,
I'm gonna flip the table, throw my toys out the pram.
But yes, no, I think having those back is very really nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's scatter dice because I've never encountered them before.
Sorry, I only have some experience from them. Please.
Basically, when you wanted to say fire a cannon at a target, you would sort of place your blast marker where you wanted it to land, and then you'd roll a scatter dice, which is just a dice with a set of arrows on it and one, maybe two, I can't remember, that was basically a bullseye marker. Mm-hmm. If you roll one of the arrows, you'd roll a dice with it. That's d6. If you rolled an arrow, that arrow determined what direction that template would move, and your d6 or 2d6, whatever, would determine how many inches. So basically, it would scatter away from the point of origin. Unless you rolled the hit marker, in which case you'd hit. Yeah.
Unless you had something which still scattered even on a hit marker, because the hit marker has a tiny arrow that you had to do to then move, which caught me out the first time I used that in Necromunda, still uses the scatter dice, and I was like, I hit the thing! And then it was like, oh no, the rule says that it still scatters. I'm like, I rolled it, and it was like, on the point where exactly where I wanted it, but my dice said 6. And then I looked at the arrow and it was like, oh, that's 6 inches back towards me. as the bomb that I threw just went whoop, and just the radius was like, that is my guy.
I miss scatter dice. I think they've removed one of the old rules that I used to love, but everyone else hated, which was you used to have to guess your ranges, and if you...
I have heard they've got rid of guess range.
Yeah. Which I actually quite liked, but then again, I was quite good at it, so I probably would like it.
Yeah.
You can spot somebody who played when those were rules, because you'll go, how far is that? And they will give you almost exactly the distance in inches, provided it doesn't go above like what you would regularly be measuring.
I can still kind of do that now.
I know how long that is. You don't need to ask me why I know. I just know that that's how long it is.
Ironically, what I'm doing at work at the moment means that I've got even better at it, because I measure out, obviously, my fiberglass at work, and I can put the ruler down like, yeah, I'm about half an inch out.
I know what that is before I've even done it.
Yeah.
I just kind of... I don't know whether this is necessarily the right segment for it, in terms of, but just a thought I had in terms of how they approached this old world. And I've not read the rules. I've seen kind of some things around it, but at least the impression that I'm getting is they've essentially said, we've taken like almost like the start of kind of like the editions, and we've just gone and translated it across. I feel like it almost whether it would have benefited maybe a bit more from like a Horus Heresy style treatment of, we've done a new set of rules for this old thing, or is that what they've done and I've just misunderstood from the articles? Because the articles were very much kind of talking about this was, the kind of the revival of an old series and all this kind of stuff, and that was the impression I got, rather than kind of a new version of the old thing, if that makes sense.
I mean, from what I've seen, it looks like a new version of what was.
Okay, so yeah, it's just misunderstanding.
It looks like they've maintained the core elements that made the game what it was, but they've updated stuff that didn't work or didn't work as well.
Okay.
Like the magic system, from what I've seen, looks better than it used to be. I also used to love the magic system.
I was going to ask, what is the magic system? What did it used to be, and what is it?
The magic system that it used to be is... this is we're trying to remember something that I played 10 years ago, if not longer. But let's see.
A vague approximate knowledge.
Let's see if I remember this right. So you would basically get a pool of dice in your magic phase, based on the number of wizards you had in your army, and you would get a number of dice based on their wizard level.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had one wizard of level 2, you would have 2 casting dice. If you had 2 wizards, one at level 2 and one at level 4, you would get 6 casting dice.
Mm.
And then during that phase, you can cast any number of spells, so long as you have a dice capable of rolling the casting value of the spell, and any wizard could cast any spell that they had access to.
Okay.
So, and you would just allocate the number of dice to that spell. So, say you wanted to, I don't know, say you had a fire wizard that wanted to cast a fireball. I can't remember if that's actually a spell. I'm pretty sure it is a spell. It's in Total War, so I'm pretty sure it is.
If not, it's got its own special name,
So, you had a fire wizard that wanted to cast a fireball, and it casts on, say, a 6+. I don't know what the value was. You could say, right, well, I know I can get a 6+ with 1 dice, technically, but that would be stupidly risky. If I do 2 dice, I've got a good chance. But if I really needed to go off, I could just throw 3 casting dice at it to try and guarantee it.
Yeah.
If I had 6 dice and I had nothing else to cast, I could just say, right, I'm going to use all of my magic power. It definitely goes off.
Okay, cool.
And then the opponent would get a number of dispel dice, which was normally less than the number of potential casting dice usually, but it was a little bit different. And
active magic system as opposed to, you've got a magic gun. No salt there.
Don't make me started on the second phase in 40k.
Pull back.
We've just done another recording about something else that riled me up. John is trying to rile me up again.
It's good for content.
I could do a whole podcast on it.
That's another thing.
But yes, no, the magic system was very good. To me, it looks like the new system gets rid of the pool of dice from the looks of it, and it's more like the psychic phase of 40k.
Okay,
But
I
not-
don't hate
Not this version, the previous version.
the
good one.
There
They had a psychic
there isn't a
phase.
psychic phase this edition. You have special.
But it looks like they've moved towards that system in Old World, which is rather ironic, if you ask me.
There is temptation. Sorry, that's another conversation. That's a different thought I had.
But yes, that's what it looks like.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to try it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to try it. Like,
the concerns run beyond just what they've done with the rules.
There is, I think, a much bigger issue.
You want to take it away for our bigger concern?
I think the biggest issue for us and probably everybody else out there is the cost.
absolutely.
It is. Like I was just kind of looking curiously in terms of, and obviously with it, pre-orders having just gone through, everything is out of stock. But the prices of things, look-wise, I was like, cool rulebook, £42. Not too bad.
How would we expect?
Depending on which factions you were gonna run, they have kind of gone with not an index system, but you buy a book based on which set of factions you want to run, whether you want to run the good guys or the bad guys, because that is how they divided them, straight down the middle.
Although I could argue that some of them probably shouldn't be in either of those sides.
Oh, 100%. Like, knowing some of the bits of lore is like, you're not in this, you're not meant to be in this side. But it's where you start to get into some of the units.
And it's not just the prices, but it's also the material.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And the quantities that you get for your prices, and the age of the models that you're getting for those prices.
I think where do we even begin with some of those? I mean, yeah, Pegasus Knights, 3 guys on horses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so used to come in blister packs, if I remember right.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these are outdated. So these are plastic ones.
Oh, they are plastic.
They are plastic.
Okay.
But so for those 3 of the, I'm presuming they're probably the sprues that came out maybe just before. Although suspiciously, I have a horrible feeling that
You'll be able to tell if they're new sprues or not, because the old sprues, they were really lightly packed.
Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an old sprue. Whereas like all the new ones, they're really densely packed.
Yeah,
they use their space sufficiently. What I'm more intrigued by is whether those wings are they resin or are they?
They look resin to me.
They do look a little suspiciously resin.
Yeah.
Mind you, that might be an old resin mold they've used, maybe.
They're just not. Price?
For 3 Pegasus Knights?
Pegasus Knights?
Too high.
Well, actually, by comparison to some of the things we're going to look at today,
Let me guess, they're about £42.50.
no, they're $37.50.
Ah, pleasantly
they're
surprised.
coming in.
I mean, to be fair, if you put that into perspective with some of the 40k units that are around that price, that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know
Especially
what.
for a plastic kit, although it is very old.
So we know what Forge World resin's like for its. It's large. If you've got a large flat surface that comes in Forge World resin. So I'd just like to draw your attention to our banner bearers, who are Forge World kits.
Oh, yeah. There's some walking on that.
They touch the old war that's going to be affecting those guys, but
That's one of the new ones, isn't it?
that is one of the new ones.
How much is that, boy?
So your battle standard bearer, mounted and on foot, you do get both.
And
I mean, a 40k character
they're not
is
multi-part.
is £21 on average.
Yeah.
So that's got to be at least £30 on its own.
£53
Oh!
for one of your banner bearers. Now,
£50.
just as a quick question, how many banner bearers do you reckon you probably need?
I mean, that's probably a character standard, so you probably only have one anyway, but even so, that's £50 for a model. Yeah. And yes, alright, you get 2 in it, but one model, basically.
That is Forge World resin. That is new Forge World resin in its defense, but that is Forge World resin nonetheless.
Still Forge World.
That's astronomical.
Yeah, Christ.
I don't know how old the
John, can you
How have they put on the new Tomb Dragon as a separate release?
Yeah,
I really want to know how much that
Draconia,
costs.
but
I want to know how much that is.
Okay, so
that model I would love to have for my 2 gigs.
they have not sold it separately yet. It is only available in the box.
What about the Cambrian War Sphinx?
The War Sphinx is available. Okay, presuming I'm guessing it's a 2 version kit. You can either build it as a War Sphinx or the Necro Sphinx.
I believe it was a dual.
Okay, so I will say it is plastic.
Yeah, because it wasn't originally plastic.
It is a plastic War Sphinx.
How much they sell now?
What do you reckon?
Well, based on what I've just looked at, I reckon it's got to be about 50 quid.
So our price is right on this one. 50? Any higher, any lower? I will emphasise it is plastic.
Yeah. I'm going to say 60, sure.
60? It's coming in, it's quite reasonable. It's only coming in at a cool 45. Which somehow you look at it and go, well, that's positively reasonable at that stage.
Ironically, that is reasonable for Games Workshop because that's probably about the price of a tank.
Yeah.
From 40k.
What I was very...
And it is, to be fair, the equivalent of a tank.
What I was... Cetra.
Oh, yes, I always want that one.
Cetra.
Oh,
Character model with 4 horses.
Is that resin or metal?
it used
Shall
to be metal.
Shall I give you the deets on its material? It is a multi-part metal. I don't know what parts are metal, and I don't know what parts are plastic.
I can probably hazard a guess that the chariot and the horses are probably the plastic.
One Cetra's metal.
Yeah.
Without it doesn't explicitly say, and it won't show me the sprue. So, Cetra, the imperishable.
Yep.
Cetra, who does not kneel? Was that
does not serve.
What does it cost to bring a Cetra?
I'm going to say
70 quid.
70 quid? 70 quid for a
The other one was
EP5.
50, that's got to be about 70.
£35.
Where's the logic?
Like, the pricing is just all over the shop with it. The by far the ones that, and although actually, here you go. Bam, Lich Priest.
Oh yeah, that's the old sculpt.
Okay, this is multi-part metal.
Multi-part metal?
Multi-part
You get
metal.
options, it just means it's in multiple parts.
No, it is just in multiple parts. Contains 2 metal components. So I presume it's the body and the stick. How much?
15 quid.
15 quid?
35.
Character. Yeah, we are dealing with a Khemri wizard character. £9. I think they accidentally put on the old price when they put up the old model. It was somewhere in the back catalogue, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just transfer that one across." But I have saved by far the best till last. The one that I look at and it makes me cry. Because if I was going to get Khemri, you'd have to include some new Shabti. They are hands down.
Mm-hmm.
They saw the Mummy Returns and they were like, those.
Yeah.
Which, coincidentally, they came out about the same time Mummy Returns came out, didn't they? Yeah, they were pretty close.
Yeah.
3 40mm base 40mm base units.
Mm.
For the princely sum of £52.50.
And all metal as well?
Oh, yeah, they're all metal.
Of course.
Okay, right. So the real important question is, and this is actually quite important in terms of the game of Fantasy Battles,
yes,
is how much is it for a standard box of Skeleton Warriors?
Uh,
That will be your rank and file, which in theory you'll want quite a few of.
So, disappointingly, at this moment in time,
They can't.
you cannot buy Skeleton Warriors.
Wow.
But
What about Bretonian peasants?
Now we're getting somewhere. Right, so Bretonian peasants,
I believe they're Bretonian men-at-arms.
Okay, so you cannot buy your men-at-arms, but you can buy battle pilgrims.
Yeah, which is the specialist version, which is probably, if I remember, they were metal. They were metal.
You need battle pilgrims, and you need the Grail reliquary.
I don't believe you need it.
Come on.
I don't believe you need it.
Okay, need and want are two different things, but like, you're going to need at least more than 12 battle pilgrims.
Yes.
So, as they haven't separated out the other ones, so battle pilgrims, your 12 models that are indeed metal,
Which is already a medium I hate.
will set you back £50. And your Grail reliquary will set you back £40. So if you want to run both of them, that's a cool 90, good sir.
I don't believe that's even a full unit.
No, your men-at-arms are included. You get, for your 155, you get 76 models, which suddenly seems very reasonable. It does include 36 men-at-arms, 24 peasant bowmen, 3 Bretonian Pegasus Knights, and 1 Knight of the Realm. So, yeah.
So in conclusion, I think what we can agree on is that the pricing of Old World means that we probably wouldn't be interested in investing in GW kits. For the most part.
I was going to say, This thing goes into potentially our next thing of, okay, put that aside. If we were going to do it, what would we do?
Well, I know what my solution would be.
I know what mine is.
Yep.
So, if we were going to do an Old World game, and given the speed at which I paint things, I probably shouldn't agree to try and do anything else, but that's fine.
Yeah, we're going to point out there's no way saying that we're going to be doing Old World yet, or potentially anytime soon, but it's probably on the horizon for some of us. Whether it ends up on the channel or not is another thing entirely.
I will say now, I am going to paint a model that could be used in Old World.
I'm going to say now that I already have a Tomb King's army from way back when that was never painted, so they may get resurrected at some point.
Playing games with unpainted models.
I know. Back in the day when I was, a teenager, I couldn't be bothered to paint.
Rebel. Without a cause, one might say.
The difference is, nowadays, I really don't like painting, but I really like painted models.
Dude, they just look better. I mean, could you do a Tomb King's in the colour scheme of your Necrons? And how would that look? Because I feel like it could be quite fun.
I mean, you could have plated bronze bones, I suppose.
But yeah.
I feel like it would probably be easier just to paint with bones.
Easier just to paint with bones. But yes. So, what would you go? So, bearing in mind that you are limited by what you can currently play, faction-wise, in Old World. So, do you know what options you got, rules-wise?
Well, I believe you can get all of them, or you will be able to get all of them, because they will release the Legends PDFs.
They say that, but at this current moment in time, you can't.
No, but they have told that they have made it apparent that they will release them. So all of the factions will be available in some way, shape, or form. Including Chaos Wars. They have actually said that.
Okay. But going forward, in terms of it, so you've got rules-wise within the Ravening Hordes book, which I guess so. Are we saying that the others will get not supported, but the ones that are on this book will continue to get supported going forward?
I believe so.
Okay. So you've got the Orc and Goblin tribes, you've got Warriors of Chaos, Beastmen Brayherds, and the Tomb Kings of Khemri all make up your Ravening Hordes evil army. Jamie, how do you feel about those Tomb Kings being in the evil faction?
I mean, I would never have called them evil. Certainly not good, but I wouldn't have gone evil.
Strong kind of neutral faction, aren't they, there?
Yeah.
And then on your the Forces of Fantasy, they're the ones who get the book cover that's all nice and light, because they're the good guys. We've got to really hammer home that there's one side. You've got the Dwarven Mountain Holds, the Empire of Man, Kingdom of Bretonia, Wood Elf Realms, and High Elf Realms.
Cool. Wood Elf Realms can go in the evils.
I mean, or maybe neutral. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
Also, I do-
probably more neutral.
also, I do feel like this, and again, this also goes into a little bit of the old Age of Sigmar things here. Does fantasy just really hate Dark Elves?
Apparently so.
Because they've not brought them across to Age of Sigmar, and now they've said, no, you don't get to come back for Old World either.
I've heard rumours that the Druki, as they were known, will return in Age of Sigmar.
They won't be called that, though, will they? They'll be the...
But there is the but I believe the Druchi or the Dark Elves will be part of the Legends rule set, so they will have some rules to play in the new Old World.
I guess we'll see when it's the 20th. They're doing the full release of everything, so we'll see what kind of comes out around then. But yeah,
long to wait now.
But there is a very disappointing omission into those ones that are being supported, that should be supported, because they're everywhere. Skaven.
I know.
Why are they not there? Because no matter where you are, there is always somewhere nearby.
Well, what you have to do is you just have to play every other faction, but as Skaven. Just Skaven pretending to be the other factions.
Skaven pretending to be Bretonian knights would be quite funny.
It would be really funny. But, so, with, the proposition that all fantasy races are coming into it, what would people do?
In terms of what factions we would play?
Yeah, factions. What faction would you be interested in playing?
That's a very hard question for me, because I want to play about 5 of them.
I mean, you want to play them all, but let's say which one would you want to start with? There you go.
Well, it's probably not the one I'd want to start with, but the one I would start with would be Tomb Kings, because I've already got a starter.
Army ready
Yeah.
to rock. And
It would be an obvious choice.
Okay. Going past that point, would you? What would be the dream kind of fantasy army to build?
Depending on the way the rules are written, it would either have to be Skaven or Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah.
One of those two. It would entirely depend on how the rules are done.
Sure. Me. Thoughts on fantasy? What kind of fantasy force would you consider doing?
I mean, I don't know an awful lot about it, but with I'm always partial to wood elves, especially if they were to do them like the Silvermouth.
What kind of play style or theme would you like? Because I can probably recommend an army.
I'd like something that uses a lot of the like blast radiuses and things. That's
So you either want big cannons or lots of magic, then.
yeah.
Dwarves have got a lot of.
So dwarves have loads of cannons.
And the thing is, I can never really invest in dwarves in fantasy for some reason.
Okay.
That's why I went Chaos Dwarves. So yeah, I mean, Blast and Blade's Chaos, Skaven. Chaos Dwarves, Skaven, Empire. They have lots of cannons and options for those.
Have you ever seen, God, what is there? The land tank.
Steam tank?
Steam tank.
Yes, I have.
The Empire steam tank.
Yeah.
I just...
Yeah.
And like an Empire list that lent really hard into that kind of like Da Vinci style machines would be really good fun.
Yeah, so those are the ones that kind of lean into like the templates in terms of like cannons and stuff. But
Also, really like the idea of doing like an Arthurian knight type. Is it the
Bretonians.
The Bretonians.
Yeah, Bretonians are...
which again, if you want to do that, you get your knights, and if you want your blast templates, you've got trebuchets, or you've got the ladies to do all the magic.
Yeah.
So you could tick off those boxes quite easily.
I think that would be quite fun because I'm on a bit of a. I've started rewatching Merlin. I'm quite on a.
You're on the Arthurian kick.
Yeah.
So I know like I know of the Merlin TV show. I've never watched the Merlin TV show, but I've seen enough scenes of the Merlin TV show. But in my head, Merlin is the look of the wizened old. You take all of the lady models from Bretonia and you just stick the big beard on the back of your Merlin models.
Yeah, it's less the Merlin kit and more the Arthurian Knights kit.
You want knights that ride. I mean, yeah, you are set from the get go because Bretonnian are the ones that they are kind of really pushing.
Yeah.
Rules wise.
Just would be nice to have some new models.
So,
What about you, John? Have you got an army in mind, or would you like to divulge some requests and I can give you an idea of what would be a good option?
2 armies in mind.
okay.
Oh.
One that is just a favourite of mine, but they're not being fully supported. But is Lizardmen.
Yeah.
I just love Lizardmen. They're just fun. Don't know what it is.
And in fairness, there are plenty of brand new GW kits that aren't ridiculously priced.
That is true. That is the other nice bonus that comes.
They
along
might
with
not
it.
be rules supported, but they are models supported.
The other thought as well, which is the model which I am going to get and paint up because I'm getting it for free, is the Chaos Warriors. And focusing hard down, like, my favourite system in any kind of, magic. If there's a way you can play a mage in a game, I will play a mage in a game, and I focus on like the summoning. So I want to do like a real high magic, have loads like chaos demons, all those kind of stuff, like being summoned out like chaos sorcerers, and just go ham.
You never guess what kind of magic I tend to go for when I play wizards.
Is it summoning magic? Nope. Sneaky magic. Explosive magic.
Anything that has some kind of gimmick.
Yeah, basically anything that basically messes with the game rules.
Yeah.
Gimmick magic.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to fly. I can now. I'm not allowed to jump 60 feet. I can now. You can't walk on water. I can now.
I think the thing that kind of appeals with the kind of Chaos Warriors for it is there's 2 things. Number 1, the Age of Sigmar Chaos models are really nice. They're so nice. And they fit in terms like there's lots of different ways you can play them. They're very Chaos kind of undivided, which where you I don't this goes then back into a kind of like decisions on 40k armies is there was flip-flopping in terms of chaos and chaos, not chaos. And the problem is that the thing that took me away from ever wanting to do chaos was Chaos Trim.
Yeah.
Not wanting to do Chaos Trim. But yeah, the kind of like having like some fun chaos forces I thought could be quite good fun. And they are one that's going to be continuing to be supported.
You get a lot of fun stuff with the Warriors of Chaos because they run the gambit from marauder unarmored troops to the big heavy Chaos Warrior Knight, basically the precursor to a Space Marine almost. Then you've also got all the monsters and the horrible, nasty beasts that you can run. The only thing you lack really is shooting.
That's why the magic comes in.
But you can supplement that with magic.
And it's also, as we have discussed outside of this, suitable to a playstyle that I think I am cognitively able to deal with, which is I push all my models from one side of the board to the other, and if you get in my way, you get hit. But if you shoot me before I get to you, I lose.
Yes.
That is definitely a topic for an interesting little segment we might do at another time.
This is the segment called John, you should just go play your World Eaters.
It will probably have something to do with that, yes.
We've taken away your army. Here is a box of World Eaters. Go ham.
Yes, that may be a topic for later.
Yes, when it came out and I was having a look through. I was having a flick through of like the what they call them, the Slaves to Darkness lists, or army lists that they do for kind of Age of Sigmar, and I was like, because then the other nice thing is if I did ever want to try Age of Sigmar, I'd have models to use.
True, wrong bases. Unless you're going to magnetize their bases.
You could find some fun ways.
I believe people have invented like base converters.
Do you need to have round bases for Age of Sigmar?
I wouldn't know. I never played it. I don't know.
Actually, I think because they do use some of the old world models.
Like, presumably you could just get away with square bases. Like, it's
I
not
think
like...
because I think there's
Well, there's some within this that come with square bases.
Yeah, because there's that big ass Minotaur guy.
I was more thinking of they've got some like infantry.
They do use a lot of the old
models, but I believe they all come with round bases.
Yeah, I think they actually come with both. Weirdly, like they pack them in with both. I'm sure there's definitely some. Although I do enjoy, not that I would ever consider running it, but just going through in terms of options that appear within the old Slaves to Darkness list, is that the Soul Grinder still appears in there.
Yeah.
Which is, oh god, it's such a it's not.
And that was released during Fantasy.
Yeah, no.
That
It's a genuine fantasy model.
But it's 40k in my head.
In a lot of people's heads. And yeah, it does make a prominent appearance in Total War Warhammer.
It just doesn't feel that way.
It does look very jarring.
Yeah.
I think it's the Chaos Marauders I was thinking of, and they come with, does it say? Oh no, it's just round bases. I'm sure there was some that I saw, or there could be ones that they were releasing in relation to Old World that came with both bases in that kind of transition-y period. But yeah, it's an interesting game series, interesting game type that would play fundamentally very different to 40k.
Which is what makes it appealing. Compared to, say, Sigmar, which is 40k without guns.
Yeah.
There's some things to Sigmar, but I don't know enough about Sigmar.
The models are phenomenal, but this system doesn't interest me at all. I'd rather just keep playing 40k.
yeah.
If I'm going to go to a fantasy, I would go Old World. But, and this is where we come on to how we would actually do it, because I would not pay most of those prices for GW kits.
Yeah, that's fair.
Some of them I would. Like the War Shrine, I think that's probably not a bad price for it. I think that seems reasonable in GW standard.
Yep.
But I think in order to supplement the models that I wouldn't be willing to pay for, I would have to go fully 3D printed.
Yeah, that's fair. There.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel, it's not going to feel good ever spending that much on models that are that old.
And metal.
Anything that's metal, I'd immediately go to 3D printing.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't bother with it.
It would be as easy to stay together, if not easier.
And to be honest, I would be tempted. I probably would, with anything that was forged road resin as well. Might as well just print it in resin.
Yeah.
I just think the
If
molds.
That's in plastic, that's of good quality.
Yeah.
I'd consider buying.
So you said before about a designer that you've been looking out for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of really good designers that have done some fantastic fantasy models that would work well in the system, which would be Highland Miniatures.
Yeah.
We've also got Lost Kingdom Miniatures.
Is Lost Kingdom one I'm thinking of? The only thing I say with Lost Kingdom is they are almost too detailed. Like they are
Some of them are.
very. I looked at their Lizard Men. They were like, I was like, that is going to be jarring on a field compared to everything else.
I'm more thinking about their Chaos Dwarf line, which looks gorgeous, but not too bad, not too over detailed. Whereas the Highland Miniatures are much more the sort of old fantasy style, but crisper. And certainly with a decent 3D printer would probably look better than a lot of what now GW is trying to resell us.
The one that I'd be very tempted by in terms of their designs, and it comes down to, I guess, a little bit less of their specifically what they're kind of doing, but it's more what they offer, is the designer we come across them, Ilhadil. So they operate entirely through Patreon. You spend £7 and you get every single model they've made. And every single model they're going to make.
That's an impressive deal.
Which is a complete thing of Kislev. They've done every model from Kislev. They have done an entirety of High Elves. They're working their way through vampire counts.
Nice.
I'm trying to remember, I think they've done Wood Elves as well.
See, the other thing that's also useful about the 3D printing mount is you can also pick up miniatures that you just like the look of from other designers
Yeah.
and plug them in. and they probably wouldn't feel too out of place.
Yeah.
I've heard some people discussing on the idea of trying to do Old World, but at War Master scale.
Yeah, that would appeal to me actually.
Which is 10 mil scale.
That would appeal to me because it'd be easier to maintain alongside doing 40k as your main one.
You just
Done. Yeah. Little bit of highlight here and there. Speaking of, like, if we, saying about just general game systems, I know I've said it before, but I really love to try Epic at some point.
So would I, but it's another system that I'd have to get into, and is in the same basic setting as one I already play.
Yeah.
Whereas the War Master one idea,
it's
a different setting. It also makes sense in terms of storing a whole new set of models and terrain. Be quicker to get out and play. Also, for me, I feel like that suits a flank, rank and file style combat really well, because then you could conceivably have proper ranks of warriors and show grand battles.
Yeah.
Well, or you literally just do the big game on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And then, you don't have, maintaining the army is not too bad to do. And then you could potentially scale up to, I presume there is probably still community support out there for things like War Master.
Oh, I'm sure there are. But when you're dealing with less models and on scale as well, it's easier to actually probably run larger point games. So that would interest me.
Could be an interesting avenue to go down. Just have to make sure we could find that
And
kind of thing for
smaller terrain as well.
Yeah, it would make terrain very quick and easy to do.
A lot more feasible.
But we are in agreement that if we did do it, that all of the bases would be done properly.
Yeah.
Goblin Green.
No, properly.
Goblin Green? That's the only... What?
No.
Not Goblin Green?
No.
What other colour is there if you're going to do old world things?
They introduced doing proper bases.
Yeah, no. The top part's fine. The rim.
I'm not.
The rim is Goblin Green.
No.
To go with the green felt.
I can't do it.
The green felt. We have to have the green felt.
Oh, no.
I've seen enough promotional pictures of that,
Yeah.
No.
I was well, fine, but I am gonna paint any that I do.
You can do that. If you want.
I'm gonna do super grim chaos with a goblin green base, super grim dark goblin green base.
Oh, I just
Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with myself.
So, what are the hopes for Old World? What do we hope it's going to be? If we have our concerns for it, what do we hope it will?
Hoping it gets past the first gate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope would be that it would be fleshed out to a point where it probably would get to at least the same level as probably Horus Heresy.
And Horus Heresy kind of is sustaining itself now.
yeah.
Horus Heresy has reached a point where it's reached deep enough into the community that it's here to stay.
Yeah.
I struggle to see Old World achieving the same currently with the investment it would take for new people.
Yeah.
I think it's one to see kind of where it goes down the line from here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting time. But hopefully, I mean, as much as I'm skeptical that it will achieve it, I am hopeful that it will.
Yeah, it's not a want for it to not succeed. It's just
No, I really want it to succeed because I'd love to have it back. Because personally, if it was me, and I know this will be a controversial statement, I would rather see Age of Sigmar go away and Old World take its place.
don't think that's a controversial statement.
No, I think that's a pretty commonly held statement.
Maybe.
I know that Age of Sigmar is a nice axe. It's much more accessible.
It is more accessible in a lot of ways, although there's nothing to say that the whole world wouldn't be accessible if it was a bit priced better.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel Sigmar for me has never felt like enough of a different game. Ever.
How much would the outcry be if they were like, okay, we're gonna take our world and we're gonna continue to support it, but now you have to have Stormcast in Old World.
I would hate that.
We've brought Stormcast into Old World.
I don't like Stormcast anyway.
Like, you can keep Old World, but you have to have Stormcast in it.
If that was the deal I had to make, it's a deal I would make with teeth grit so hard that they would shatter in my mouth. But I would make the deal.
The monkey's paw curls. It's like, you keep Old World, but it gains Storm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the Sigmar models real nice, but
Beautiful models, absolutely beautiful.
they're really nice, and that I wouldn't want to see it go because that would get rid of all of the conversion potential that Sigmar models have.
No, I just want Old World and Sigmar to switch places.
Yeah.
I want Sigmar to just become the niche one and Old World to be the main show.
But I feel like there is a potential thing of like, I'm not invested in Age of Sigmar. You're coming from Old World. It may not be that we're the target market for it.
Well, I think I am the target market for Old World.
Yes, you. Oh no, what I meant was Age of Sigmar. Like, you're not the target market.
Well, I would argue that Age of Sigmar's target market is everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, it's meant to be like 40k. It's meant to be available for all. But
Whereas they seem to have gone a little bit all in on people who want Old World back and played Old World at the time.
I think Sigmar only really appeals to people who don't like 40k. Because it's a way into Warhammer that isn't 40k.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. Because it's not the fantasy genre and setting that feels like a fantasy historical game system.
it feels like it
just feels like 40k with a fantasy skin, to use a gaming term.
It sells well, and there's honestly some of the nicest sculpts come out of it.
The sculpts are beautiful. I've been up to Warhammer World and seen some of those displays, and they are gorgeous.
Yeah, I do wish that I cared more.
But yeah, I mean, if they changed Age of Sigmar to be more like Old World with rank and file infantry and stuff like that, I'd probably be up for it, because it would be a different game system, and it would feel like a historical combat system. But it doesn't feel like that, and therefore I'm not interested.
Another thing, I think it doesn't, from my experience, it doesn't hold up as narratively well as like 40k does. Like,
it doesn't, because, and you're right, because they haven't fleshed it out or spent as much time on it as they had with the Old World or with 40k.
Because like I didn't get into like 40k lore for like a while from playing it, but like from watching battle reports, from watching like various different videos and things, you do just casually kind of pick up the lore. But like with Sigmar, I have watched a few things, and like admittedly not as much as I've watched 40k, but doesn't seem to be like casual lore drops and things as much as there are.
It's a much younger setting.
Yeah,
I think the problem I have with like, and this is rag on Age of Sigmar for a second here.
We sidetracked a little bit.
I think the problem I have with Age of Sigmar, at least from what is, I can't in my head place where everything is. Like with having come from play Total War, it's like you can get an idea. Okay, this faction has their base here. They have gone to this place here. They met this other faction in the middle. They fought there. Whereas a lot of what I've seen from like Age of Sigmar things is, it's this fractured world. They go to this other place to fight, and then they both get to go back to their respective homes.
It's a little bit too abstract.
Yeah.
It's
like it's like it's like a little dueling place, and
little pocket
dimension. We fight here for a bit. Oh, one of us lost. Okay, well we're gonna go home, and they're gonna go home. Yeah. Have you won anything? No.
It does feel a bit like that sometimes. I do agree.
I think that's again.
Those are problems I believe could be solved within Sigmar. Like you said, I'd be more. I agree with you. There are problems within the narrative and the way they present things that could be solved. For me, if they changed the game system so it was more like a historical combat system, I'd then be interested.
I just having a casual scroll whilst we're chatting on this as well. There is one thing that I would like them to bring over from Age of Sigmar to Old World, which is the endless spells.
Yeah.
Which are the spells that you can put down as units that have like a permanent interaction. They have like a point cost.
I mean, to be fair, you do get spells that persist in Old World.
That kind of thing of like, because they are very fun things.
There are spells within the Old World where you can basically summon a vortex and it just sits on the battlefield and moves around.
Well, that's
yes.
That
is just
well then. There you go. I want that, and that thing already exists. This is what I mean. As I don't know Old World.
It is there. It's probably not quite the same, but it does exist.
Is it part of your like army list, or is it just a thing?
No, it's just a thing you can summon in.
See, I think that's better, because I've seen a lot of people hate the endless spells for the fact that you have to use them in your actually pay points in your army list for them.
Yeah, but they're a nice thing of like, I have like a couple I think cost wise they're not huge.
No, they're like 20 to 50 points.
Yeah, so it's like, I've got this little bit of leftover points. What can I do? I can chuck an endless spell in there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to hurt, but it helps bring up those kind of those balances.
It's not a whole lot different to the fact that I believe it's still the same in Old World that you had to pay 10 points to have the spell, or you had to pay 10 points to have that extra wizard level that gave you that spell or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not massively different.
Right.
It's just maybe the delivery is slightly different. But
So I mean, Old World is one to kind of see what happens.
yeah, I think we'll have to keep an eye on it and see where it goes and what we want to do with it.
But as I said, I am definitely building one model for
You're
it.
definitely building one model for
But there is a chance that I may eventually build an army for it. Although, as you guys are well aware, my painting is normally very slow because I genuinely don't like doing it, but I enjoy the result.
I'm not going to go for that wonderful Khemri, like Thousand Suns striped color scheme on all of them. All those headdresses need stripes.
If it can be done with contrast and dry brushing, it'll be contrast and dry brushing.
It was the Chaos Sorcerer that I made my decision on, and that's also partly had an influence on. Maybe I could do Chaos. Now I'm wondering can I make them have them as both?
I'm sure there's a way.
No, like 40k and
I know. I'm sure there's a way.
Just requires a little bit of thinking.
that's the one thing I can't do.
That's the most difficult part.
Right, well, thank you very much for listening, guys, and our little discussion on the Old World. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed us. Follow us on Instagram. I have been Jay, your host for today, and we have got...
I am Joe. Yeah.
And I'm John.
Thank you very much, and we will see you next time in the Mead Hall.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.